and it could basically disrupt probably money that should be, let's just say, in a savings account or something versus invested in the market. I was just arguing with Grant Cardone on Chatter, and he was basically saying this is why people should invest in real estate and that real estate doesn't have a lot of downturns. And I reminded him about 2008. So anything can basically be volatile, right? Those of you in crypto, I saw crypto is down, Bitcoin is down, which is interesting, but maybe not so much because the market is down and they tend to trend parallel versus um, uh, like gold, which we thought that that Bitcoin would trend opposite the market. But what we're finding is that Bitcoin actually follows the market. So they're both down right now. I think it's under $80,000, Lou, and it
78,
hit 100. Yeah, it hit 100 during the time when they said that Trump was going to be president. So that's a significant drop as well for
77.
Bitcoin. Yep. So
Have you been paying attention to what BlackRock is saying about the tariffs? Because I always kind of pay attention to them because they have, they have the expertise in this type of field. Have you seen anything that they said of as of recent? I know they came out and said Bitcoin might take United States as the world reserve currency, and he said that he was basically warning like I don't think y'all want to do this. So yeah, have they came out and said anything about the tariffs?
yeah, so we went through this on the Friday room, but I'll pin it again. I love BlackRock as a source of information, and I showed y'all how you can basically just go on the website and they have immediate information. So BlackRock is being pretty explicit about it. They're talking about how reducing risk as uncertainty hurts markets, trade tensions have triggered a risk asset sell-off. They see volatility persisting for some time in reduced risk taking. So they're basically telling people to reduce risk in your portfolios because they don't really see an end to this. They expect tariffs to lower growth and boost inflation globally. In Europe, higher fiscal spending could limit the drag from tariffs. So basically, Europe is going to do what we call quantitative easing, which is what we saw during COVID, where the government will kind of assist with spending and basically, maybe give some of the economic stimulus or lower taxes to help businesses, the kind of thing that we typically see whenever the economy is slowing in a country, right? Just like with COVID, remember the Fed chair basically brought interest rates almost down to nothing to stimulate government activity. So other countries do the same thing, not just the United States, right? Economics is economics no matter what country you are or where you go. It does not really change depending on the zip code or the side of the world that it is. So I will say personally that Europe especially was more so ravaged by COVID than any other countries were. And of course, the United States tends to weather these things. You guys have heard the phrase, when the United States sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. That is absolutely true because we're the number one economy, number one stock market, so forth and so on. But can Europe pull it off? Probably so, because this would be seen as a direct attack on their economy. So they would absolutely do what they needed to do to help uphold their local businesses and their people, their corporations, so forth and so on, while these tariffs might increase prices. So you guys can read what BlackRock is saying. BlackRock said we shorten our tactical horizon to 3 months, and they're actually turning neutral on U.S. equities and prefer short-term treasuries. So BlackRock is giving this volatility a time period of 3 months because they don't see anything that's going to stem the tide. Treasuries, or they're saying short-term treasuries versus long-term treasuries because you don't want to get into a long contracts. And they're basically saying that you should seek income, and they're neutral on equities, which is pretty much the majority of the stock market, even though we talked about on Friday that the bond market is actually larger than the stock market, both in the US and globally. So you guys may want to, not financial advice, of course, but if you still want to stay invested in the market, as opposed to just buying the dip, which could be more volatile, you may want to consider some bonds or some treasuries and get some income to offset your market losses. So good questions, Lou. Anyone else? No one is selling a budget plan, Trill Bill Jones. Yeah,
So
I'm not sure
basically,
why you said that.
you said it's pretty bearish right now. So the best not financial advice, but to purchase dip right now isn't the best idea. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Because it's
I mean,
bearish.
yeah, I'm reading what BlackRock said. So
Hmm.
telling people to purchase the dip is like telling people to start a business or telling people to buy stocks, right? It's not really, it's not specific enough. It's pretty generic because, it's kind of like sometimes if you have a losing hand, you don't want to just keep playing, because maybe people are overinvested in the market. Maybe they are too aggressive for their risk tolerance, right? So there's no
Right.
way to know if that would be good advice for anyone. For some people, sure, they're just going to put more money in. But, for someone who, like I heard from someone who is 65, close to retirement,
Yeah, absolutely
and
not.
she said,
Right.
yeah, she said, I'm not dealing with this shit. I went to money markets, I went to cash. It's mostly an IRA. So she's not going to have capital gains. But would I tell that to somebody that had like $100,000 in a taxable account that's been investing in NVIDIA, which has been up almost 250% for the last 5 years? No, because the capital gains are going to kill them. Right. So for some of you in those taxable accounts, that's another thing. This is not financial advice, but you may want to check with you and your CPA. And some of you may need to harvest some losses because you have some huge capital gains in some of these taxable accounts, especially since the stock market was what, averaging a little 20 to 25% over the last Biden administration. So now you see that you may take some capital losses, which is also strategic in terms of your taxes. And you can carry forward losses as well. So check with your CPA about that, right? Because otherwise, maybe these stocks wouldn't have been down. And then make sure you just don't get out of it and get back into it, because then you're going to expose yourself to that 30-day rule, the wash sale. If anybody needs to know more info about that, I'm not going to get into it now, but those of you that are aware of it, you know what the wash sale is. Just don't do that because the IRS will get you. They're very, very good at it too. Plus, your brokerage will be able to notice that you did that. It's basically getting out of a stock, right, when it's down to lose some capital gains and then getting right back into that same asset within a certain time period. It's called a wash sale, and you cannot do that. So, just FYI.
They don't have time to play with their funds right now. They don't have enough time to see the return on investment if it decides to go back, even though we know that the stock market always goes back up. But Lou, I would like to be able to discuss another day about whole life and how people are putting money in that, which is never volatile. Their money's good, it grows, and they can, and it's tax free, and everybody loves tax free. So whenever you're ready, I would love to discuss
Definitely.
that.
Hey, Mickey, quick questions for you. So I seen that J.P. Morgan was said that the Fed may have to cut interest rate before next meeting. What is that? Can you break that down? What that means? Like, and what
Yeah.
should we do?
So the Fed is the chairman of the Fed is Jerome Powell. I call him Jerome Gangsta Powell because when he started lowering interest rates, right, during COVID, and then they started raising interest rates because the economy was basically too hot, meaning that inflation was really, really high. Remember, people were buying properties, the stock market was going crazy. We did not have a recession. It's just that, people went back to work, people started businesses, so forth and so on. Quantitative easing worked, and it was projected that we would have what's called a soft landing. So, a soft landing meaning that after a period of quantitative easing, which is basically where, as I said, the government sent the stimulus. Both Biden and Trump sent stimulus to Americans. And that was income based, by the way, right? If you made $250,000 a year, you did not qualify for stimulus, but it was meant to be sent to, I'll just say, everyday Americans to help get them through it. There were also the PPP loans, the EIDL, right, which was put in place to help corporations and businesses kind of get through this period of economic downturn. Economic downturn means when money slows down, people are not doing loans, people are not buying. That can also lead to a recession. So Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Fed, basically helped to decide on these course of actions, and lowered the interest rates. And the Fed rate is basically just the rate at which banks loan money to each other. But a lot of a lot of the lending is determined by the Fed rate. So, for example, if you have a brokerage account with Fidelity, I used to negotiate this quite a bit for clients. They may say, well, if you get a margin loan, if you have $10 million and you want to get $2 million, we'll, allow you to have this margin loan on Fed rate plus 1%, right? So that's how that's used, but it's also used in a lot of financing, like credit card rates, finance rates. The only thing it doesn't exactly correlate to are your mortgage rates, right? That's not directly correlated to the Fed funds rate. So Jerome Gangster Powell has been insistent that he wants to get core inflation back down to 2%. Why is that 2% significant? Because we typically have inflation of about 1 to 2% on an annual basis. This means that if someone were to track, let's just say, how much gas was over the last 10 years, or how much taking somebody out to your favorite restaurant tracks over 10 years, right? We know that things tend to increase in price slowly over time. You ever remember your grandmother and your mom and your dad saying, when I went to the movies, it cost us 50 cents. Well, it doesn't cost 50 cents anymore, right? If you want to talk about inflation, let's look at how much a movie ticket costs, right? It has increased way more than 1 to 2% a year, but that's something that's kind of just priced in, right? We kind of expect it to go up every couple of years, much like your rent whenever you sign a new lease, right? You never really hear of anyone saying, well, I paid the same amount for my rent for 10 years because it's going to increase. That's inflation. It's just an increase in the cost, increase in the cost of goods and services. That's all inflation is at its most basic. So what they are betting on is that Jerome Powell will be forced to lower that Fed fund rate because these tariffs are going to trigger a recession. But for the tariffs to trigger a recession, Lou, we would have to see a lot more unemployment. We would have to see really, really high unemployment. And to be honest, those numbers are still too strong right now for the Fed to basically say this is a recessionary economy, right? Things are expensive, but that does not mean we have a recession. Things are expensive, but people are paying for them. Now, maybe they're paying for them because a lot of you refinanced your properties when the interest rates were really lower, right? Maybe a lot of people have discretionary income because people are working from home, or maybe people are staying at home longer. We don't really know why the economy is doing quite so well and is still pretty strong. What we're dealing with right now is a market downturn. The market is a leading indicator of the economy, meaning that I'm sorry, a lagging indicator. I'm sorry, lagging, not leading. Lagging meaning that it's kind of by the time then the market has reacted, it's probably something that is already occurring in the economy. But the stock market is not necessarily the economy, if that makes sense. Inflation is separate. You can also have increases in inflation, such as increase in equity in your house, or the valuation of your business, or investing in the stock market. So it's not always bad that things get more expensive, right? Like with crowdfunding, I believe that Fanbase started at one price, right, when you first got in, and then that first entry point increased over time. We could also attribute that to a form of equity inflation. So, did that answer your question? Basically, Jerome Powell is not going to change his tune. He just affirmed it on Friday. He may let recession naturally occur, in which case, then he would organically lower those interest rates. But since CPI is still 2.8, that would have to come significantly down. His focus right now is inflation, Lou, and that's going to help the average American who's on a fixed income that, can ill afford a 3% target inflation, because that means that everyday things are just going to be too expensive. And that's where we're going to see, homelessness increase, which it already has, by the way, and those kinds of things. But Jerome Powell has been adamant. He is not going to change his mind, and he cannot really be moved for another 2 years. So I'm not sure why JP Morgan is so bullish on that, but I would bet my house it's not going to happen. Good question. Any other
Appreciate that.
questions, y'all? You're welcome. I
I
know
got
I'm
one
going
more.
into a lot of detail about the economy, but as you guys know, I've talked about a lot. We have to be aware of what is going on with the economy, who the Fed chairman is. Like I said, BlackRock is my favorite, one of my favorite sources for information, as is Fidelity. And just dig around on their website. They don't require a login or anything. So there's a ton of data on there about just about everything under the sun. Oh, go ahead, Lou.
No, I'll let you do no, no, do your thing. It's all good.
No, like I said, I'm just answering questions because I'm already I'm already hearing from people about the futures, and it looks like it's going to be another volatile day. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, yeah. So anybody have any
Did you
questions?
see? Did
Perfectly
you see
okay.
the? Did you see China? They lost 10% in the stock market today.
Yep, this is basically disrupting the global market slew because it's not going to be good for anybody. So with China putting the tariffs on, right, they're anticipating that Americans are going to buy less, right? Just like we're anticipating that, Chinese, are going to buy, or that we are going to buy less American product, or I'm sorry, less Chinese products, right? That's kind of how that works. Think of this as a turf war, Lou, right? A trade war is pretty much just like a turf war. So somebody's going to lose some turf, right? You had well-established areas of, I'm on this block. Y'all excuse me this example.
No,
Clavon will
this is
probably laugh
great.
at
Yeah,
me.
yeah, no, 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 no.
Okay.
This
Perfect.
is the only. This is the only way people can relate. You gotta formulate into some street hip hop shit. Yeah, keep going.
So it's like, we had established turf, right? We had established areas. You were over here and I was over there. But now there's going to be like a bid maybe for some undisclosed area in the middle that we kind of just, kind of avoided. And now it's like there's going to be a battle for that. So that's basically what's happening with China. China is the number 2 economy and we are the number 1 economy. So imagine if the number 1 and the number 2 just went at it, right? Like just all out battle. That's literally what's happening right now. You got Taiwan in there, which I believe has said that they want to go negotiate with the United States. We get a lot of chips from Taiwan. Remember, China in the past, like what last year, actually told the United States that they were going to move on Taiwan to reoccupy that land. So it's kind of like a little simmering hot ass mess over there, and it has been for some time. And if you want to go far enough back in the past, remember that Donald Trump's first presidency that he also put tariffs on China. Anybody remember with the soy? China basically said, kiss my ass. They got the soy from Brazil. And then Donald Trump and the Republicans had to give billions of dollars in subsidies to the farmers because they lost that entire crop. I think it was the Biden administration that gave the black farmers their subsidies. So they had to wait that out. But does anybody remember that? Like that actually
Yeah, I
happened
do.
already. Yeah. So this is not new for us in China. We've been circling around this for a long time. So I'm really not surprised that y'all remember with the quickness, Donald Trump had his press conference and China, what, by the end of the day, boom, let's go. It's on. So yeah, everyone, just like our stock market is down, Lou, so is their stock market, right? So is Japan's. Japan's was down 10% too. This is global disruption. That's what I'm saying. This is like the United States is coming for everybody's territory. So we are going to expect that some of these countries are going to fight back. This is a trade war. This is an economic war. Even Warren Buffett said tariffs are an act of war. So basically, the president of the United States just said, "I'm coming for your money." Whether you feel he is right or wrong, that is what's happening. So markets are reacting across the globe, not just the United States. What you got to say unapologetic? I saw you put something in the chat that said, I'm
No,
happy this is happening.
you took it out of context. No,
I
no,
didn't
you
take
took the
no, I'm
statement.
glad the economy is going to get worse. Had people been ready, they wouldn't have to get ready to weather this storm. First of all, a lot of people don't have the ability to get ready. We're not talking about billionaires. We're talking about grandmas and grandpas. We're talking about veterans. We're talking about single parents who a lot of them lost their jobs during COVID. Do you know what people did with the stimulus money? Contrary to popular belief, they didn't make it rain. They didn't go to the Gucci store. They literally tracked people during the stimulus with that $1,200 per person because it was income based. They went to the grocery stores, right? They paid their bills. They didn't go and have fun. Do you know that helped end like child poverty by a significant number because it was only a $1,200? That made such a difference to the average American. I'm not talking about you social media big ballers that think that $100,000 is nothing and $300 a date is poor. I'm talking about real people, not the fronting people on social media. I'm talking about real people. So don't make me cuss you out. Let's not ever
Nah,
wish
I come
this
in
time
peace,
gets
man.
worse. Don't
I
get
come in
me pissed
peace.
off. Go ahead.
I come in peace, man. I didn't come to argue. No, just, I was saying that statement because You're right, what you just said, right? But I was speaking to the people who are now trying to scramble to get ready, right? If we stay ready, we don't have to get ready, right? I've heard you, myself, Dr. Albert, Mike the advisor, Mr. Wilson, GA over these years encourage people to you know what I'm saying, manage their finances, increase their discretionary income. And from space to space, you know what I'm saying, the same people be asking the same questions, disrupting the spaces, challenging. And if they were to listen to what was being said by all of us, right? We're essentially showing them how to find money inside of their budget and then telling them what to do with that extra discretionary income, right? That's what I meant by that statement. That's why I said, no, 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 you took it out of context. So uh, I always give Mickey her flowers, Duran, anybody that's taking time out their day to help you edify yourself so you have a better understanding on how to pivot in this abnormal economy. And these are people that, you know, I've heard talking for years, right? These aren't the people that should be cut off in spaces as they're trying to help you edify yourself, right? Uh, who can explain the concepts, can explain the why and how to pivot. No, you need to, if you're not coming to their space and they come to your space, you should be, as a moderator, especially if you're a moderator, you should give them space so they can explain the concepts and help those who are trying to listen get the edification. So I was just talking shit in the chat, but I was speaking to those people where uh, they had it and they didn't manage it, and now they're scrambling to get ready. You see what I'm saying? And we seen that this is phase two. We seen phase one of what Trump is doing. Throughout his TCJA, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act 2017, where he cut the corporate tax from 35% to 21%, and it's going to automatically kick in 2026 to 15%, right? We've seen this already with his USMCA trade agreement in 2020. What he's trying to do with the tariffs, all he did was double down on it, right? So the more time you have to stay ready, right, the better off you're going to be. That's it. That's all I meant by the comment.
For that. I'm sorry, because I'm gonna be. I'll be honest with y'all. I'm gonna be really mean. Like if y'all thought I was mean before, that was happy mean.
No way.
Oh yeah, Yana. I am pissed. I am pissed. There is no reason for this to happen. I'm not concerned about wealthy people. I'm literally not concerned about wealthy people. I'm not concerned about two wealthy people. These people are fine. They've been through this. They've been through some of these families. They've had money invested, since before 1929. Like they're barely even calling. This is not, like what the money that's going out, some of it is bonds, right? It's the institutional markets, it's the pension funds, it's the big boys, it's the, because what they're going to do is they're just going to sit this out. Just like Warren Buffett, he went to cash. He's able to handle the capital gains or the increases that he had. He was strategic with the assets that he sold. This is a time that a lot of people, it's called harvest losses. I'll put something in the chat. Has anybody heard of that? You harvest your losses. So thing is that you either make money in the market or you make money on your tax return. That's literally how that works for the big boys, right? Which is why I'm always talking about tax. Investing in a 401k, that's tax mitigation. Investing in a Roth IRA, that's a tax play, right? It's not just I'm putting money aside to make more money. I'm also being strategic about tax implications. That's how you have to think about it, right? It's not just I'm going to make some money doing these options, because you always have to think about the tax. Just like if you won the lottery, they're going to come for the tax. A lot of you have small businesses, you probably don't pay your estimated taxes, right? Because the IRS wants their money if you don't have a 9 to 5. When you have a 9 to 5, they take out the taxes every time you get paid. You see FICA, right? You see every a person with a 16-year-old, the first time they get their check, they're like, "Mama," I mean, my boys did, "Mama, who are all these people?" I'm like, "Baby, that's the government." "Well, why are they taking money out of my check?" That's what they do, sweetheart, right? Like, well, I didn't give them permission. None of us do, but that's all that is. So my concern is that a lot of the misinformation that's being put on the news today is that people should just ride it through. You should just buy the dip. This is not a big deal. This is a very big deal. We've had market dips, yes, but not one initiated by a president on purpose. I just don't know why. The White House is not really being clear. They just keep saying Americans have to sacrifice. No American should have to sacrifice their 401k or their investment account in this manner so that the White House can accomplish some trade goals. There are other ways to negotiate. And I'm just not a fan of this, regardless if I was a Trump fan or not. Had Obama did this, had Biden done this, I would have been just as critical because it really, really doesn't make any sense. I don't think that that the American people are really in a financial position to lose this much of their investments. And let's hope that the market does spring back again, which some of you are timing the market in that regard. I'm not Nostradamus. I don't have any help for you, right? If you want to buy at the lowest, then that's you timing the market. My suggestion is to put that cash in there so that you're ready to pull the trigger and you have some limit orders in there. If it goes beyond this point, then I'm going to buy, right? Use the tools and resources that you have. So no need to back channel me. I don't know. I don't know who knows if it's going to turn up or at which point. And there's honestly no guarantee that this is not going to happen again. He's only been in office a couple of months. I would not have expected this level of volatility from a new president just coming into office, but here we are. So this is also why um, economics is politics, but not all politics is economics. And that'll hit y'all later. Anybody else? Just any questions, honestly. It's a great space. Oh, Blue, how did you fall down?
I had a
Um,
question.
yeah, sure.
And like I said, myself and others, I shit before Trump became president, and shortly after, you know what I'm saying. I said they're going to start talking about the tariffs again. You're going to hear the USMCA trade agreement. I said just the other day they passed, or tonight was it Friday? They passed his framework for the tariffs and the tax cuts that's about to come up. They haven't been. It hasn't been in the news cycle since he did it in 2017, where it's going to automatically kick in that it goes down to 15%. So when it went from 35 to 21%, if I'm not mistaken, it took out a couple of billion. They said it's over 10 years, it's going to take out a couple of $1 billion out of circulation, right? Now he's doubling down on that. So it's going to be even more. It's going to add to the deficit, right? So my question to you is that, and everything is going to trickle down to the consumer, Joe the plumber, right? So my question to you is this. You should always have a budget. It's never a bad time to have a budget. It's a bad time not to have a budget. So my question to you is this. Is now more than ever before imperative that people have a viable budget?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a budget person. And that ties in with your financial goals, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Because I'm very much like a parameters person, right? I talk to whenever I coach young men, I always ask them about, two things, and I'll be very explicit. I ask them what their condom budget is, and I ask them what their dating budget is. I've only talked to maybe 1 out of 25 young men that actually had both in mind. Because what happens, and I'll use this example with dating, is that, you meet somebody, you're all excited. Ooh, she fine, he fine, he answered my text message, da 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 da, and then your budgets go out the window. And I've said this before, but people know people's favorite position after 6 months of dating, but you don't know their credit score. Hello, hello, amen, right? Because we're not indoctrinated to have financial conversations with each other, or we're indoctrinated to show off and wear your bling 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 and wear your red bottoms or whatever, and your cutest weave and your nails and your hair. But that's not financial security to me, right? If I'm someone that's, I'll use my boys for example. My boys have been taught from birth to gauge someone's financial viability as a partner. Why? Because you're not going to bring y'all broke ass and stay at my house. That's literally my family's mentality. You can stay here until you're 30, but you are going to have to exist and financially take care of yourself when you leave this house. You will be given all of the tools to put yourself in a great financial position to move into a home when you leave home, but you are going to have to partner with someone that is one on one in that vision, because people think that cheating is the worst thing that a partner can do. No, the worst thing a partner can do is ruin your credit and steal all your money, in my opinion. So Yes, you should have a budget. You should have a budget if you want to start a business and you're making capital injections into your business. A lot of you haven't set up an LLC yet, but maybe you're braiding hair or you're doing beats, right? We hear people here that do beats. Do you have a business entity? Because if someone should pay you for a consultation or a beat, what you don't want to do is put that money in your personal bank account. Why? Because then if that person decides to sue you, what they can basically do is um, do like a be financial, not financially forensic, do a forensic investigation into your financial accounts. They can subpoena that, and what they can say is, "Oh, okay, so this is your business account." Well, no, ma'am or sir, this is not my business account. I pay my mortgage and I take care of my mom and I pay my child support out of this account. But this is where you put that business money. So therefore, I'm going to sue all of this. You just got your tax return from your personal, but you made a deposit from what I paid you to do this beat into this account. So therefore, now I want all this money. That can actually happen. It happens all the time. So what do you do if you don't have a business name or a tax ID? Just open a separate business, just open a separate personal account. The only thing you have coming in and out of there are capital injections, which is basically self-funding, right? But to the IRS and on your tax returns, it's going to say, I made a capital investment of $500 in my own business. There's the $500 in my account. I paid for Instagram advertisements. I paid for my equipment. Um, and I also received payment from XY for a beat. And you can see all of that here, Your Honor. I did not do anything else in this account. And they're going to be like, okay, so you separated your business from your personal, even if you didn't have a business name. So a budget will also help you with that. How much can I contribute to my business? Maybe that is a short term goal of yours. I can carve out $200 per month from my business to put it into my beats making account so that I can buy equipment, so that I can get myself, maybe I'm going to set up a website or something. I don't know. Right. So all a budget is parameters for you to have guardrails. It means that you're just not going to be driving along life's freeway without a destination in mind. Because if you don't have a budget, you can't tell me where you're going. And you should constantly have budgets. You should be achieving financial goals. I want to achieve a raise within my firm in the next 2 to 3 years, right? I want to increase my 401k contributions. I want to buy a house in 6 years. I want to retire at age 55 with $3 million in the bank because I'm going to be spending at least $80,000 a year because I already spend $60,000 a year. I am not going to spend more than $3,000 on my hair and nails because I want to save enough to buy a studio. We should all have investment goals. If someone does not have investment goals, I don't care how much money they have, run. Run. They have no forward projection about themselves or any relationship with you. Making enough money, a lot of money, should never be anything to impress anyone because it's actually not impressive. My grandfather used to tell me any fool can make a dollar. Are you a planner? Are you a planner? Have you gone from point A to point Z in a certain period of time and you can speak life into yourself? And are you disciplined enough to actually carve out dollars for what you want to achieve? Because anybody can flex when they're employed and doing well. When things get difficult, as Unapologetic was alluding to, now I understand. Thank you for explaining. That's when the rubber meets the road, right? Because you can't floss when you're broke, although some people try. But y'all got to know the difference. I'm going to say a lot of people just be easily impressed by anything. It's not going to work in the Trump
Hey, Miki,
administration.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So I seen something with Bill Ackman. I'm trying to find out where I seen that shit at. Hold on, let
Oh,
me
that
find.
crackhead. Yeah, I can pull it up from his Twitter. He actually
Yeah. From his
had
Twitter, I seen
purging.
that.
He's a major Trump supporter. And
Nah, but he called out Trump's Secretary of the Treasury and saying that he's making money off these tariffs and that is actually he actually went against the grain, started talking crazy about him. I'll find the tweet though. Hold on. Okay, I found it. All right, so it says I just figured out why Howard Lutnick is indifferent to the stock market and the economy crashing. He's in Contour are long bonds. He profits when our economy implodes. It's a bad idea to pick the Secretary of Commerce whose firm is leveraged long fixed income. It's an inconceivable a conflict of interest.
Oh shit, Lou, I am reading through Bill Ackman. Oh, he is calling them out. Oh,
Yeah, he
damn.
calling them out. Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, you guys. Well, welcome to my Memoirs podcast. And that's a little bit of what's going on Fanbase. We are talking everything to do with the current events. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Memoirs signing off, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.